All right, module 40, general thermal energy and hydrogen fuel cells. So our learning goals today are explain how humans harness geothermal energy, describe hydrogen fuel cell and its potential for providing electricity. So geothermal energy is heat energy that comes from natural radioactive decay from elements deep within the earth. It can be used as a direct source of heat, so groundwater can be piped up through the radiators to heat a home, or heat exchange can collect the heat. It can also be used in the same manner that a thermal power plant uses steam for water evaporation by Earth's heat. So like we just talked about, every power station has like something to heat the water that turns into steam that turns the turbine that creates the electricity, right? Okay, the U.S., Indonesia, Philippines, and Turkey are all large geothermal energy producers. Okay, so here's kind of a map of geothermal harnessing energy. If you notice, it looks very similar to our map that we had for solar energy the other day. A lot of it is west and south-ish west. Okay, so this is how geothermal energy would make its way into your house if you decided to get that done. Okay, so essentially they run a pipe. The pipe is filled with probably hot water or some sort of fluid that won't freeze. And they go deep enough to where the temperature of the earth is going to be consistent, and it runs up through your house. It gets pumped up through your house, and then either goes through the radiators or heat exchanger, and then is cooled down and goes back down, just like everything else. Okay, so like if you've ever been to Devil's Icebox in Columbia, the hiking trail, okay, it's the same temperature all year round. So in the summertime, it's 50 degrees and it feels cool. In the wintertime, guess what? It's 50 degrees and it feels warm. That's kind of the same concept here, is that it's always going to be a consistent temperature once you get below the frost line, because the Earth has the magma and stuff like that at its core. And so we're using that heat to heat our homes and electricity and that kind of stuff. So it's pretty interesting. And then once you get it set up, it doesn't really cost a whole lot. And you can get that done in Missouri. That's kind of neat. Okay. So ground source heat pumps are technology that transfers heat from the ground into a building. Okay. Hot water heat pumps also extract heat from areas in a garage or basement and transfer it to water in a domestic water tank to be used for household activities. So that's like the same thing as the water heater that we looked at with the electric water heater probe in it. So it's just going to heat the water around it. Okay. Not that you look confused. Good? Okay. All right. It's highly efficient because just like the water heater is 99% efficient, because the heat that's dissipating is being absorbed by the water, so is everything around it. So the heat that's being brought up by the geothermal process is being trapped into the air, which is warming your house or your water or whatever you need it to do. So you're not losing very much energy, if any at all. Okay? Yeah, so this is a depletable or non-depletable energy source. Not depletable, right? Unless the Earth explodes, which would be that. Does it release gases? Would you guess?
Yeah.
Probably, maybe initially when you're drilling, but then after that, probably not, right? Okay. This method for heating a house uses 30 to 70% less energy than traditional means, which is pretty interesting. Questions about geothermal energy? There's nothing really much to say about it. You're getting energy from below the frost line. It's heating your house, heating your water heater, going back down.
What dictates how long you get water heat? Like, because my showers will only be hot for so long until it gets cold. So what dictates that?
So that's just like a question about water heaters in general. I'm just asking. Yeah. Right. Okay. So what dictates that is you run out of hot water in your tank, and so then the water's got to go back in and heat up. So you probably at home don't have a very big water tank, like hot water tank, or it might need to be cleaned out. So every year you're supposed to drain the water, and so drain some of the sediment, so that way it makes it a little bit more efficient.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Which is like most people don't do that, but that's like the recommended maintenance is you drain it once a year to get all the sediment out. That way it's.
You want to do that?
I don't own my house, so no. Yeah, when I owned a house, I did it the first 2 years that we owned it, and after that I kind of forgot because life happens. But yeah.
So
So
go ahead.
go ahead.
no, you got it.
Okay. So Like when you see in apartments they have radiators, is that always connected to geothermal?
No, most of the time it's not. So most of the time, what the radiator in apartments and stuff is connected to boilers at the bottom of it, and so your thermostat will control how much of that hot water you're getting. So if you keep the thermostat low, then you're not getting a whole lot of hot water through your radiator. But if you keep it high, it's going to keep it up and through. That's a good question.
Is if it's so efficient and it's not super costly, why don't more people do it?
I don't know. So obviously, it's going to be more efficient in some areas than others. It's probably
Capitalism.
it's probably the initial cost, right? That sets people a lot back. The same thing with like solar panels and stuff like that. It's the initial cost that keeps it from being popular, and then after that, like it's supposed to be really efficient. That's a good question. You have something else? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's why your water heater. That's why you get a cold shower after a while because you used all the hot water, or somebody in front of you used it. So you have a small water tank. Probably not likely, or you have one that needs to be cleaned out, or you're like there's a million reasons why. So yeah, good question. All right, so then the second one is describe hydrogen fuel cells and the potential for providing electricity. A fuel cell is an electrical chemical device that converts fuel such as hydrogen into electrical current. Fuel cells operate like a battery, but electricity is generated by the reaction of two chemicals. Anybody can guess what those two chemicals might be? Oxygen and hydrogen, otherwise known as water, right? So that's why it's called a hydrogen fuel cell. Okay, it deals with hydrogen, oxygen, gives us energy and water. So it operates like a battery. Okay, so the hydrogen gas enters the cell from an external source. So like in cars, you'll have the hydrogen cylinders here. You step on the gas, it releases hydrogen to your fuel cell. Okay, the fuel cell moves the electrons, which generates energy. It moves the protons down the membrane, and then it gives you a spark of electricity, and that's what powers your car. Just like a battery would. It has positive and negative ends. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yep. So that is just hydrogen interacting with oxygen, which is pushing, it's combining hydrogen and oxygen, and that is releasing energy, okay, which can be captured to turn the wheels or the pistons in a car. Okay. What's cool about these is no pollutants are released when hydrogen fuel cell is being used. So your emissions are water vapor. So you're just releasing water vapor into the atmosphere or into your tailpipe depending on temperature, right? Both gases are explosive, so that would be the bad thing. Is that's why like you can't smoke in a hospital because the oxygen tank stuff like that. Hydrogen's just as explosive. Okay. And hydrogen is, even though it's like in our air, it's difficult to get pure hydrogen. It's difficult to extract. One way to do it is called through electrolysis, which is when electric current is applied to water to split hydrogen and oxygen, which leads to the disadvantages of this fuel type because it does require a lot of energy for electrolysis. Hydrogen can be dangerous to transport. In order to make large impacts, vehicles that need to be redesigned. So you can buy a hydrogen car. Toyota makes them. Honda's putting out a new one this year. And you would just go to a regular hydrogen fuel station, fill up, and away you go. Okay. And honestly, they're priced not that far out of like a regular price range. I think the Toyota one is sitting like $40,000, which for a new car is about right. Okay. And so you have zero emissions. You don't rely on gas. They're just as efficient as far as like miles per tank as a regular gas car. And it's pretty cool. But the only places that make sense in the United States to own them right now is in California because that's the only place that has hydrogen fueling stations, which is pretty neat. But it's explosive, and so they have to redesign it. Yeah. Questions, comments, concerns? This is the end of your lecture. Real quick today. All right, cool.